Okay, welcome back everybody. Video 70, remarkably 7 months I think since I did the last one. I don't seem to be getting very good at getting these out on a regular basis, so sorry for that. So what we have here, or what I'm going to show you today, is some of the picture analysis capability of X-Ways Forensics. Me and my forensic friends have been looking at ways that we can look at pictures and videos slightly differently more recently, and it's caused me to dig down a little bit into the detail of some of the inbuilt capability of X-Ways Forensics. So what I've done this morning is I've very quickly just created a few pictures with an iPhone and a DSLR camera. So they were just shot in my house just quickly, some flowers and some paint and a horrendously underexposed picture of my dog. And I've added those into X-Ways Forensics into a new case. I've just put them in a zip file and added them. So as you'll see by default, X-Ray Forensics will list the files and you can look at the pictures, but some other stuff is not yet populated, as you would probably expect at this stage. Your display layout of the directory browser may be different to what you see here because I've moved these three columns here further along. As a reminder, you can do that in the options of the directory browser. Any of these columns here, you can change the order or the width of them using these radio buttons and the up and down arrows. So what I've done in the case of device type, generator signature, and structure type, they by default they're right down the bottom. All I did is click on the radio button and then I move them up and down like so. So you can do that as well if you like. The only reason I've done it is for display purposes because I want them to be nearer to the file name for this particular demonstration. So I've added them to the case. I haven't yet refined my volume snapshot, so I will do that now. And in order to get the information populated in here that I want to show, there's two things you need to do: verify file types and extract internal metadata. And one of the things that is on by default anyway, I think, is the structure type tick box down here. You can go into some more detail about confidence levels and things if you go into the manual, but for now, just accept that that needs to be on in order to show you what I'm going to show you. So if I now click OK on that, I'll choose all the pictures in my zip file. Now you'll notice that these three columns have now been populated with additional information, two of which are filterable, i.e. if in a big case you could filter by these particular properties, and they're all sortable. And this is obviously a very small demonstration, but this is designed to illustrate how if you're faced with a high volume of picture files, perhaps generated by a certain individual in a certain scenario, but with differing equipment, you may be able to group them together more easily to work out which pictures were created with what devices far quicker than just looking at the metadata. If I just scroll along briefly here, you'll see that I do have metadata information for these particular files, giving me the version of the, in this case, an iPhone and the version of iOS and so on. The important bit, or the bit I want to demonstrate, are these three here. So the device type, pictures that have been created with smartphone technology versus pictures that have been created with DSLRs, and I'm assuming mirrorless cameras and things like that. So that in itself is quite useful, and you can use the filter there to, so if I just said smartphone, for example, it would just list the ones for the smartphone. I'm obviously going to deactivate that for this, but you can see how that would be useful if you had a big case with thousands of picture files in it. The generator signature is a kind of a step up, as I understand it from reading the manual. Bear in mind, by the way, this is not especially based on experience of using these. It's something that I've known about within X-Ways Forensics for a while, and we're looking at using, me and my forensic friends are looking to use a bit more often, but for now I'm just kind of exploring what might be possible. And so the generator signature is based on various other bits of information besides standard things like a hash value and stuff. So if I was to go into the user manual for a moment and go on to the generator signatures, you'll see here that it says for JPEG, the signature is based on the quantization table and some other invariant features that are shared by all JPEG files. The generate signature is provided with the metadata as a 32-bit raw hex number, accompanied by a textual description derived from the file generator signatures. This example shows the signature results from a JPEG file generated by Microsoft Paint. In other words, in the case of JPEG files at least, they can be created by all kinds of different things, whether it be software, whether it be hardware, and the source of that information can be looked up by X-ray forensics to give you a bit of a clue as to where you are, or as to where they've actually come from. And you'll see that these pictures that were created with two different devices, you've got two different generator signatures, and it gives you an indication here as to exactly with what. But it's clear to see from that that these few were generated with an iPhone and these were generated with some kind of Nikon camera. If you then go to the structure type, as I understand it, that is a further enhancement based on the picture itself, along with some other information that X-ray forensics might know about the pictures. And I think the best way of explaining this is, if you've got somebody who makes a lot of pictures, imagine for a moment that he or she has got 3 or 4 different cameras, but they always photograph a particular in a particular studio with the same backdrop and the same flash strobes. So the lighting and the overall scene is largely the same, but the only thing that differs is perhaps the person in it. Well, these structure types will help you group more easily a number of photographs that have all been created kind of at the same time with the same lighting and the same setup. It hasn't, in my particular case, because there's quite a lot of actual difference when you look at it more closely. For example, the frame of view and the lighting and things are quite different. But if you've got thousands and thousands of pictures and there's a good number of them that have all been shot, at 10 frames a second and things like that, then the structure type will all be very similar. So in my case, these few here that were all captured with the smartphone have got one structure type. So that's these that have all been highlighted purple. And these ones down here have got another structure type. So whilst they were all in the same room as these, as you can see, the exposure and the lighting is quite different, as was the time of day. In fact, there was a little bit of time between taking those. So the fact that they're different is actually probably very correct. It's probably more designed at masses and masses of pictures all taken within bursts of very similar time frames, as well as similar lighting and backdrops and so on. Oh, and that is also filterable, but it's by the value of, obviously, because it says in the manual it's a 32-bit hex representation. And then you've got your metadata over there as usual, and obviously you can click on the details pane and see all the metadata in there. Anyway, you can see that even without refining the volume snapshot, but it shows you it nevertheless. And just as a little bonus, I noticed the other day, I don't know at what point this was added into X-ray forensics, but it is a useful feature. You'll notice if you click on the preview button, there's a little plus sign next to the details, well, actually on the details tab. If you click it whilst you've got preview down, you can actually see the details pane next to the picture file, which I actually think is quite useful if you're scrolling through pictures and you want to see certain bits all at the same time. And usefully, it freezes where you are. So if you wanted to look at, say, the EXIF data of a load of different JPEGs while still also seeing the picture, you can get that. And then if you click off it, it goes. So that's that. Okay, that is it. That's video 70. I hope that is of use to you. See you next time. Bye.